Greetings and welcome back to yet another episode of the Daily Run, and today we're playing as Eve on this very special day. As is customary, a few days of the year constitute of a special daily, which means that you start with usually a normal character, but you have some items which kind of fit into the theme. So this is the Halloween special daily, and we started out with a sackhead, so we look like Scarecrow from Batman, or just maybe a Scarecrow in general, so we're kind of spooky and scary, but other than that, everything is the same. And if you play the daily on this day, everybody does start with a sackhead, so it's not like anyone is at a disadvantage. It's a bit different than usual, but still at the same time, the same strategies go and apply. Sometimes, maybe we'll start with a really fun item, or maybe a combination of really fun items, and like I said, it's just more about the theme and just being in the spirit of Halloween or any other day that a special daily might happen. And I think it's great fun. They take about 20 of them a year, so I don't think it's too much, because after all, if you had a special day every day, it wouldn't be special anymore. But this way, I think that whenever it does happen, it just adds a little bit of that spirit into it and just makes the dailies just a bit more interesting. But other than that, this is just a regular daily run with Eve that goes to Shoal, so that means we want to have to try really hard to find ways to go further than our objective, just because the Shoal is one of the later floors. So our main focus is on just getting strong, playing well, not getting hit, and maybe hopefully find a way to break the game and get a lot of consumable points. Our first item contained the Holy Light, and that's one of my favorite items that got added in Afterbirth. At the same time, it's very fun and interesting, just the fact that you have these holy beam shots, but also like the fact that it's a random proc item, so that means it's synergized as well if you have a lot of tear speed, or maybe if you have a lot of luck. Just in general, I like items that rely on you having a lot of luck, because then I feel like every stat I pick up that has luck in it, not only do I get maybe just a health up, but I also get a luck up, which means that overall my DPS increases because I have more holy light shots. And that is just great fun, because of course holy light shots do AoE damage. Whenever you can do that, I think it's great when you can land that shot in just a mass of enemies and just kill them at once. And saying that, we also got charm tears, which is also one of my favorite tier effects. So we can charm enemies and they'll shoot their own enemies. So I mean their own friends, which are also our enemies. So I'm glad that so far this daily has started out really kind of on a positive note. I really like it. There was experimental treatment in my previous boss room, but I decided not to take it, and I think that at this point, because I think it could go both ways, obviously. On average, taking the item will put us in a better situation than not, but just by a bit. But at the same time, I didn't feel like risking it. More often than not, nothing really significant will happen, and maybe sometimes what's gonna end up happening, you're gonna end up really strong, and sometimes you're gonna end up really weak. And I know how Eve dailies can go sometimes, especially if maybe you get a health up. Then things get a bit tricky in the sense that you need to find a way to sustain your one red health, or maybe if you don't have any red health, your spirit hearts. And that just makes it a bit hard. I think if I was playing with a different character, any other character, maybe except the Keeper or maybe the Lost, I would take experimental treatment, because the main reason for that is that it does contribute to the spawn transformation, and I think that is one of the most prevalent transformations that you can find. Like, you will find it often enough that I think it's warranted to take an item that is somewhat suboptimal, even though, like I said, on average experimental treatment is a stat sub. So I think that you should take it more often than not, but some situations I feel like you shouldn't, and this is maybe one of them. I think this one depends on just your personal experience with Eve, I guess, and how comfortable you are with her. So we traded out the Book of Sin we got from the Devil Deal for the Mom's Box in this room, and my plan is to, because we have Sackboy, it means that we'll get a lot of battery charges, which means we can use our spacebar item a lot. And in that sense, that means we can produce a lot of different trinkets. And the good part about that is we generate trinkets that just help us with DPS, like Cancer or maybe Curved Horn, but more importantly, I feel like that with so many rerolls or uses, we are somewhat guaranteed, or maybe very likely, to get cracked dice. And if you have cracked dice plus IV bag, or maybe just find the blood bank, it means that we can hit ourselves intentionally, not get any loss of points for taking damage because we are using an IV bag, and reroll all those coins that we kind of produce into better items. And if you do that often enough, because you're producing coins and you're rerolling those things into chests and then opening chests and getting more consumables, what ends up happening is you can get really a lot of points just from doing that. It's not like a super ultimate game-breaking combo like Jera and Blancart is, but it's still good enough for you to maybe get a few thousand points extra on top of whatever you might have. That was my plan. Even though maybe it's kind of far-fetched, it's a bit unlikely for us to get both the IV bag and the cracked dice, but I think it happens often enough, and there's, like I said, really no loss. Just keeping Book of Sin is just not that good enough, because Book of Sin is generally not a super positive item. It helps on a minuscule level, like maybe gives you a few keys, maybe a few health, but we don't really need health, we don't really need consumables because we have Sackboy. So I feel like in this position, taking Mom's Box is better. Also, one thing that maybe not a lot of people know about Mom's Box is if you just hold it, your trinkets have double the value of what they usually do. So maybe if you have like a Curved Horn, for example, which gives you 2 damage, I think, increase. If you hold Mom's Box, it actually gives you 4 damage, or Cancer Trinket, which increases your tear speed. If you have Mom's Box, it increases your tear speed even more. So it's also just nice to hold, because it works both as a passive and an active item. I think that's one of the great things. And like I said, you have this possibility of not breaking the game, but finding a way to get more consumables or more items or points or anything like that. I think it would be a bit more potent if this run only went to Mom or Mom's Heart, because then you can use Cracked Dice and IV Bag to produce, like I said, a lot of consumables, and you can kind of keep doing that until you get AWAS runes and then use those to go further. And those are some things I did on some dailies, but it doesn't happen very often, just like I said, because having 2 items at the same time in the room is kind of difficult to pull off, because as soon as you find IV bag, it means you have to stick with the IV bag and you have to drop Mom's Box of trinkets for it. But at that point you would need to get the cracked dice already, unless you bought it maybe, or but yeah, I'm going way too long with this, but I'm just saying that there's a good possibility. I really like the item. I think it's a very fun passive active item which can do a lot of good if you know how to use it. So this boss rush wasn't very nice at all, because it has those spikes, and I'm in a very awkward position, because I think like optimally we do have to take Blancart, but at the same time I don't want to waste my chance of using my Mom's Box a lot of times to get to get some good trinkets. And at this point, like I said, I am trading my Mom's Box for the Blancart, because with Jera that is a game-winning combo. So me having kind of 8 or so waves or 8 charges means that I can generate 8 more trinkets, and hopefully one of them is better than what we currently had. And thankfully we do get Curved Horn, which I think will help immensely, because our DPS is not actually that high. Thankfully, the things that is carrying us is Holy Light, and those shots really do help, especially against multiple enemies. So like I said, at the end when I finish, I stick with Curved Horn and then take the blank card in hopes of finding a Yarrow rune, or maybe just any decent card that will help us on a level or room-to-room basis. Because like I said, we weren't too strong, our boss rush wasn't the fastest one in the world, so we entered this floor at around 25 minutes. Thankfully I didn't have to search for too long, so at this point we only have 2 minutes left to find the boss room and Hush. So I'm just not even looking back, I'm just bombing out of rooms that I don't want to fight if they were taking too long or whatever, and luckily enough I do end up fighting Mom's Heart in a very reasonable amount of time. Actually, I also found it very fast, so I got maybe a bit lucky, so that makes up for all those moments where I was maybe a bit unfortunate in my pathfinding. I pick up Incubus here, which I think that's the optimal choice, because it effectively doubles our damage up, and especially with the items we'll get from these rooms in general. You can see we got the Cricket's Head, which increases their damage. We got Deadeye, which also increases their damage. We also get pieces, I'm not sure how to pronounce that, which increases our tear. So we got a lot of DPS upgrades, and having Incubus as a way to deal an additional source of damage just means that we're super strong. I would fight Hush with 2.5 hearts, but luckily we did get 2 Spirit Hearts from our Tinted Rock in the room with the rocks, or the 2 items that has a lot of rocks in it. But I think with how this haul of items turned out, I think I would be comfortable with finding with even 2.5 hearts, which means we have 2 hits before we are in any serious danger. And as you can see, I actually managed to beat him without getting hit once, so that was very nice, because he didn't do any of those tricky shots, or maybe combination of shots that are kind of hard to dodge. He was very nice to us, and I'm glad that this run is going so well. Like usual, I played well early on, I feel, but as soon as I got really strong, then I started taking a lot of silly damage, especially in Darkroom. For some reason, I just can't handle the Darkroom. And some of the enemies in there, I just end up getting hit. I really need to consider if it's worth exploring with knowing that I'm gonna get hit so much. So one one consideration that has to be made here, that what happened in the end is, so okay, at this point we found the sacrifice room, or we haven't found yet, we'll find it just in a bit, which will allow us to go to the dark room, and that's usually worth it if you have enough hearts to afford it. And you might see, okay, but you only have 3.5 hearts, how are you gonna pull it off? Well, I have 9 lives, which means that whenever I die, I respawn. Effectively, it means I have 9 more health than it looks like. There's one little problem that maybe you're not familiar with, and what ends up happening is, if you die while teleporting, it has a chance of crashing your game. So what I do, or what I would do if I didn't get a lot of spirit hearts right now, is I would play it until the stage, so until this stage, and then shots from there from now on have a chance of teleporting us. So I would go back and pick up my spirit hearts that I left, so I think I had 2 spirit hearts, and then I would use those. So that means that I would have a chance to teleport and not die, or I mean the game wouldn't crash because I wouldn't die while teleporting. So that's maybe just a trick. If you have 9 lives and maybe that's only your source of HP, just leave 2 or 3 spirit hearts on the floor if they drop, and then use them at the end or at the last stage when you know you're going to teleport, or maybe you have a chance of teleporting, and don't use them up early on when they don't actually matter all that much. Just because, like I said, if you do die while teleporting, the game can crash, and that's not something you want to see on a daily, that to just lose because of a game-breaking bug. But with that said, we are super strong because of the combinations of items we got. So this was a very happy, harrowing. I think we really scared our enemies with the shots we had. I'm glad that this special daily turned out this fun. Even though like I didn't find a Yarrow rune or a way to break the game, I still felt like I played okay and decently, and I'm glad that I did manage to use my 9 health or my 9 lives pickup to teleport to the dark room, which then gave me kind of more longevity in the run. Even though I felt like we played well, we still have 8,000 damage penalty, and that's also because, of course, we did play the sacrifice room, and that I think adds about 4,000 or 5,000 points. But overall, I felt like I played okay. I caught both the main objectives, Hush and Boss Rush. So of course you can expect a lot higher score since this run does go to Shoal, but I think 39,000 points is okay. And with 69, I think I am satisfied with my score. And with that said, guys, I thank you for watching, and I hope to see you next time.